We got Raw Dog, number 5 ranked Brandon Royval as a minus 170 favorite with a plus 145 comeback for number 7 ROGERIO BONTORIN in the men's flyweight division. Now, AJ, this is going to be a really fun fight because both of these dudes are almost clones of each other, except they're just a little bit different, right? Now, Brandon Royval, BJJ black belt, Bontorin, BJJ black belt. Both of these dudes can knock each other out. Both of these dudes have wicked submissions, wicked scrambles, all of that. But one of the big differences is when you look at Royval and you look at his frame, he's 5'7", Bontorin is 5'5", 67-inch reach for Bontorin, 68-inch reach for Royval. But when you look at the frames, Bontorin is small, but he's thick. He's wide. He's jacked. Royval, he's kind of tall and lanky, you know what I mean? Which is interesting because he's not that much taller, but he doesn't have that same muscle mass that Bontorin does. So I wanted to ask you off of the bat here. Brandon Royval, even though we know how good of a prospect that he is, or I shouldn't say prospect, I should say a contender. We know how good of a contender he is. He's 3-2 in his last 5. He is 2-2 in the UFC, and he's on a 2-fight losing streak currently. Now, those 2 losses were to the current champion, Brandon Moreno, and that one was fluky because his shoulder popped out. So it's like, you lost on a technicality, kind of, even though a loss is a loss. But then the other one was his most recent outing, which is against Alexandre Pantoja, second-round submission loss that he talked about in his pre-fight presser that he might have rushed back from his shoulder injury just a little too early, just a smidge. The question I wanted to ask you off the bat, AJ, is that an excuse? Or do you think that he's taken the loss on the chin like a man and learned from it? That's the big question here. What do you think?
Man, it's hard because an excuse and a reason are two. They're very similar, but there's a big distinction. You know, if it's a reason, he's learned from it and he says, you know, yeah, I might have came back a little too early, but this is how I could fix it now. Whereas if he's just making excuses and not really offering up an answer to it, then, you know, it's a little bit of an excuse. I mean, me personally, what I think when I hear it is, yeah, you might have rushed back a little too early. Unless you got the win, then you were saying it was perfect timing.
Yeah.
So it's a little iffy, you know, whichever way you want to phrase it. I do think that with the shoulder, it's something weird, man. That thing's a very mobile joint. You know, you got to give that one time to relax. But you know, Raw Dog, he's an amazing fighter coming out, man, and he can easily get things done. But playing the submission game against Rogerio Bontorin is going to be interesting to see how they get things done. Because you're right, man. Rogerio is an absolute pit bull. This dude is short and thick, like literally just thick, bro. This dude is massive, strong. It's going to be a very interesting fight to see how this actually unfolds. Because if this is a grappling game, I'm not really sure who I lean towards with the advantage. On paper, I see Rogerio Bontorin. Oh, this is a savage on the ground. But then Brandon Royval is also very amazing, but he was just tapped out by Pantoja. But even to that, man, he's having those 2 losses to Pantoja and then Moreno. It's not really that detrimental. Do you take away a lot from Brandon Moreno with those 2 losses, Derek?
Well, from Brandon Royval, no, I don't. I don't take too much away from him just because of the injury situation and because of how close. I mean, the Brandon Moreno fight, that was scrambles. That was, we don't know who was going to win that fight. There is absolutely no definitive way we could look at that and say, oh no, Moreno was definitely going to win. He had a little bit of an edge going on, but that's not the point. If you look at his win against Tim Elliott, how impressive was that, man? Second round submission. If you look at his fight against Kai Car France, the back and the forth, you know what I mean? He gets dropped by Kai Car France, comes back with a spinning back elbow, drops Kai Karp. So it was crazy, right? And he takes risks, and that's a part of the game plan for him. He says he's got to take those risks. That's what got him to the dance. That's what got him there to the position that he's in. So I think that Royval is going to take a few more risks than maybe Bontorin is willing to do. But that in there lies the problem, AJ. One thing that I've seen from Brandon Royval that I don't like, but I like at the same time, is in those risks, he's willing to trade. And I don't know if Bontorin is the dude you want to trade against. Just because Bontorin, even though he only has 3 knockouts, this dude is powerful, dude. Like, all it takes is one right hand from the dude to really drop you, put you in a bad spot. Then he can use his jiu-jitsu, which is, he has 11 submission wins. He can then use that jiu-jitsu to then be able to try to, you know what I mean, nullify his opponent. But Brandon Royval, I thought it was interesting in the pre-fight presser, he did note, he says that he thinks his jiu-jitsu is just simply better than Bontorin's, and he's going to be able to take advantage of some of the mistakes that Bontorin is going to make. So, with that being said, man, my question is that Bontorin being the bulldog that he is he walking down Royval, or is Royval walking down Bontorin? Because both of these dudes literally walk forward. Only one can lead the dance, though. So what do you think?
Man, that's I've been pondering this same thing. I think it's going to be Bontorin that starts off anyway. That kind of gets things going, and he's a little bit more. stacked, and not just like physically wise, because physicality wise he is, but just mentally he's also a lot more of the aggressor, a lot more of that guy where you have the flashy Brandon Royval. He's down to take that step back just for that check left hook to come in. That's his kind of style, man. He's down to push a little bit, just to pull a little bit more and then get the one on you. So I see Bontorin leading the dance to start things off, but if either one of these fighters connects with that power, then we're going to start to really see the tides turn and really start to see how they act when the chips are down. Because Brandon Royval, we've seen him handle himself, do very well when the chips are down. Obviously, without injury and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't matter. But going back to that Kai Kara France fight, that shit was amazing, bro. When you're getting dropped like that and coming right back and have the wherewithal to see your target, spin, hit it with an elbow. Yeah, this dude is insane, man. So don't get me wrong. If Royval is on the back foot, then he can easily still transfer back and take advantage and get Bontorin walking backwards as well. I just think Bontorin's going to start off on the front foot. What about you, Derek?
It's hard for me just because I think that Royval has what it takes to be able to walk down Bontorin, and Bontorin is a little less of a volume striker, so I could see him just kind of waiting for the big shot. You know what I mean? Where Brandon Royval, he's all volume, all feints, all pressure, he's constantly moving, constantly in your face. And I don't want to say this because I don't know if it's true, man, but Royval might have the cardio edge on Bontorin in this, so he might be able to be more active and pull that off. So it's literally the feint heavy offense versus the pit bull of Bontorin. It's the wicked jiu-jitsu and the incredible scrambles versus the power takedowns and the power jiu-jitsu of Bontorin. Heavy hands, dangerous in the clinch, is Bontorin, who has an extensive kickboxing background, but Brandon Royval trains at Factory X Muay Thai, and he has attacks from all angles, brother. I don't care if it's an elbow, I don't care if it's a whatever, you know what I mean? He's dropping you knees, elbows, punches. He's kind of got that Muay Thai style a little bit, and I just want to talk stats before we give our picks. Very similar are these fighters on paper, right? 3.44 significant strikes landed per minute at a 41% clip, 2.82 significant strikes landed per minute at a 52% clip for Bontorin. So first one was Royval, second was Bontorin. 46% striking defense for Royval, 43 for Bontorin. 1.16 takedowns per 15 minutes for Royval, 1.68 takedowns per minute for Bontorin. 52% takedown defense for Royval, 51% for Bontorin. 1.7 submission attempts per fight, right? 1.2 for Bontorin. So on paper, it's like right there, brother. And folks, just because when I talk it out, I can totally understand how you could look at that and be like, all right, man, this is you're saying words. What does this mean? So on paper, literally, when you pull it out, you just look at these dudes. Everything is damn near the same. Takedown accuracy is obviously better for Brandon Royval, but aside from that, everything is basically the same, man. It's interesting. Brandon Royval is a southpaw and all that good stuff, but man, I just think that this is one of those where we can make a guess on this, we can make our prediction, but honestly, you're not going to know until fight night comes because these are two incredible fighters, and the big caveat here is that the winner of this fight may potentially set themselves up to be able to fight the champion, not after this trilogy for Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. Someone else needs to fight. Kai Kara France is going to be fighting Askar Askarov, so maybe it's like after the winner of that, these guys get it. I don't know. Do you think that I'm kind of like, that's kind of the right assumption to make, that this isn't necessarily the next title shot, but the next title shot after the next title shot is the winner of this fight? What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I agree, Derek. I think these boys are playing chess right here, trying to set up matches for the not like you said, not the next one, but the one after that. Because I do think there's a couple fighters. Pantoja deserves a shot as well, man. This dude, he's actually beaten Moreno, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there's some wiggle room to get going in this top 6, top 7 match they have getting fourth. But both of these dudes can easily be fighting for the championship within the next 2 to 3 fights, possibly.
Quick prediction. Do you think that the flyweight championship changes hands more than 2 times this year?
More than 2 times. Ooh, I'm going to go no.
So you think under 2 times?
I'm thinking under 2 times, 2 at the most. But yeah, I'm going under. What about you?
It's interesting because it's like, dude, think about it. Like, let's say Deiveson Figueiredo somehow gets the win on Moreno, you know what I mean? And then you got the Askar Askarov, and then you got Kai Kara France, then you got these guys, then you got Pantoja. It's just like, I can see how it could change hands so many times, you know what I mean? But I would not be surprised if one person was just so dominant that they locked it down. Honestly, And Brandon Moreno came out of nowhere, in my opinion. You know, I knew he was good, but I thought Figgy had that title locked down. Like, he was just that bully, that menace in the division. So it'll be interesting because you're right. Pantoja has a win over Moreno, and he has a win over Royval, you know, and wins over plenty of other people. So it'll be interesting. But, you know, with that being said, I think that it's time to give our picks. Well, I almost dropped down the graphic without even doing that, brother. Give me your pick. Who do you got? Over and under is 2.5 rounds. Who do you have in this fight, brother?
Woo, I'm going with the under again, Derek, but just by short, man. I'm going KO round 2, and I'm rolling with Raw Dog on this one, man. I think he's going to get one back. I think it's finally his time. He's dropped those last 2. One, somewhat fluky. He was losing that fight, though, to be completely honest. As well as the next one, yeah, he got handled over there by what's it called, Pantoja. So I'm rolling with Raw Dog. I think he's going to be able to get it done. I think the smooth, flowing, trickster kind of jiu-jitsu style as well as striking is going to be a little bit better than that pit bull, full force, full strength method. At least that's what we've seen in the past, and that's why I'm rolling with it this time. I got Raw Dog KO round 2. What about you, Derek?
So, you know what? I've been really torn on this one, not knowing if I should go over and under. I don't know if I'm going to see a finish in this one just because the game plan that I see from Bontorin doesn't really feel like it's going to be finish-oriented. I don't think Royval is going to even allow himself to be put in a position to get choked out again because of how much pride he takes in his jiu-jitsu. But I am going with a little bit of the contrarian pick this time around. I'm actually picking ROGERIO BONTORIN in this fight. And the reason why is because Brandon Royval against Pantoja, I felt like he struggled a little bit with that power differential, and not power in terms of punching power, power in terms of literally strength of Pantoja. Like I said, Royval is just a little lanky, you know what I mean? I'm such a big fan of him. I think he's such a talented fighter. I just think he needs to put on a little bit of muscle mass to be able to compete with some of these stronger dudes, because I don't care what you say, even in jiu-jitsu, even though it's the gentle art, strength and size matter. I'm sorry, you know what I mean? If you're wrestling a dude who's, you know, same weight class as you, but they're just jacked, got that strength on you, they're going to have a little more power to be able to suplex you or do whatever the case may be. So I just think that Bontorin is going to be able to use that bulldog power approach to nullify some of the scrambles and incredible movement of Royval. I'm going to go over. I'm going to go decision on this one for ROGERIO BONTORIN. And don't get me wrong, man. This is in no way a knock towards Brandon Royval, because I think he is so talented. I just think this is one of those trap game type matchups where people are saying, like, to me, plus 145 for Bontorin seems a little extreme. Like, you know what I mean? A dude, Royval's coming off 2 losses. Bontorin is coming off of a loss to Kai France, where that was just that stun knockout. He kind of called the fight himself, and then he gets the win against Matt Schnell. I don't know, man. So I go Bontorin. I'm going over. But last question before we move on. Do you think that plus 145 is a little too high, or do you think the odds are right on this one?
No, I think it's a little too high. I think it should have been a lot closer than that, especially looking on paper. These dudes are very, very similar. I honestly was betting this was going to be like 110s even across the board. Yeah. I had a real hard time picking who I'm rolling with on this one because Bontorin can get it done for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be a fun one. This is probably one of the most contested matchups that I had trouble just kind of figuring out on my own.